SciManDan. Not a good look. I'll give you not a good look, sunshine. Mate. Where do I start? I should start at the beginning, shouldn't I? First up, do you remember this? How you going, SciManDan? Love your work, mate. Remember this? Remember that? The perspective? This was our, I'm pretty sure this was our introduction, mate. Remember? I said, no, the angle, it's not a tiny angle. It's wrong. I got the perspective wrong. Do you remember? I came good though, didn't I? I went, look, all right, because these things are pointing at the moon, aren't they? But knowing they haven't gone to the moon, I obviously jumped the gun somewhat. That is my excuse, but I still got the angle wrong. I said, no, that'll be the biggest angle. It's over, what is it, 90? That's a 90 degrees. And anyway, it was wrong, wasn't it? I put my hand up. I went, yo! I screwed this one up. Do you know, since then, I stand by everything I have said when me and you have been interacting. Everything, including every action has an equal and opposite reaction, is a load of horseradish. SciManDan, there's something that you are missing here. Not all of you. And by the way, your merry crew, the comments, right? It's funny just how stupid this guy is. He knows loads about nothing. Just ba, 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 ba. All of your merry men. Well, I singled a couple of them out, and then I did a communal message, like on the notice board. And I said, guys, how do you want your messages to me served back to you? I can do al dente, I'll do them fried, boiled, pureed, and if there are enough of them, I'll even whip up a tempura batter all of those comments and serve them back to the people that they came from. They could share amongst themselves, swap comments, because I don't need them. Guys, there ain't no Dunning-Kruger happening right here. You guys. Do you know that the only reason I keep coming back over and over and over again is because I know it is not your fault. And I know how much is rested on me getting through to as many of you as I can. So settle down. I will probably whip up tempura batter for everyone's comments and feed them back to them. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. SciManDan, you said let's not go there again. We already debunked that. Didn't debunk anything, mate. 1600s, Newton. Laws of motion, 3 of them. This was when he was doing gravity as well. Which came first, gravity or the laws of motion? SciManDan, he said, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. In 1600s, would he have been referring to the vacuum of space in 1600s? I know it didn't happen, but I'm playing along. Do you think when he said, he didn't, but every action has an equal and opposite reaction, Galileo, and Galileo went, oh, up in the vacuum of space? It wasn't like that. If it happened, he would have been on about silly things like riding a bike, pushing one leg down and the other leg would go up and stuff like that. The one thing, SciManDan, he would not have been referring to is the vacuum of space. Now, here's the thing. For there to be an equal and opposite reaction to the initial action there needs to be an action. But in the vacuum of space, you cannot interact with that medium. So the initial action isn't there. It does not count. You will not get anything out of anything that you do in the vacuum of space. There are no particles, no molecules, no atoms. I could scream at you right here. You would not even hear a beep. SciManDan. Therefore, I am afraid that it hasn't been debunked. In a vacuum, the action, the initial action that would take place here on the atmosphere doesn't count, because there is no interacting with the atmosphere, with the vacuum. So there cannot be an equal and opposite reaction. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter what your bunch of merry men say. There is no equal and opposite reaction to anything that happens in a vacuum, because that initial action just didn't take place. So, not debunked. What do we say then? Bunked? Right, I've bunked it again. And you cannot come back next week. You take too long, by the way. A few days. Let me hear from you by Wednesday or Thursday. You cannot come back and say, well, they've been to the moon. Because that doesn't count. I know you'll try it on. So, that one is back in play. Newton in the 1600s. That action has an equal and opposite reaction. Galileo, rockets in space in 300 years. What do you reckon? Yeah, sounds good, Newton. Why don't you team up with Einstein? He does photons in the future. Now, SciManDan, not a good look. I don't know what to do about this comment. I'm taking it easy on you, all right? But should I? Should I rip you a new pocket for your jeans? Eh? Right, now let's go. So I started on one board and I do this thing where I'm not very organized. Oscillation, resonance, and horseradish. What have they all got in common? Right, SciManDan, you said, I'm still harping on about the tides. The man in his garage. What was it? What was the title? I've got you on the. I was so happy to see me on your thing again this morning. It was early and I'm like, look at that. Made my day. It really did. Because I sometimes have a slow Monday, but this, when I saw that, SciManDan, I do like your work. Hang on. Come on. So I do these things. I do notice I do like your, where you cut and you cut your videos, don't you? You're good at that. I don't. Where is it? What on earth? I'm sorry about this, all right, but search SciManDan, there it is. When you try to tell people that the physics of tides is wrong. Folks,
hey,
the physics.
Thanks for nothing.
The whole world is like a dog.
He's wrong.
Me, zero counting. Thanks for nothing.
Now this is what I mean, right? This inability to think outside of the box that you're all inside. It's alarming. Oscillation. You somehow think. Well, you obviously don't know too much about oscillation in resonance, SciManDan, do you? Because, here we go.
He's in the Bay of Fundy.
Right there.
Just so that we know. I love it. Now, this fucking Paul Russell.
Tides don't simply pile up along the equator because the moon's orbit isn't actually perfectly equatorial. Now, the moon's orbit is actually tilted 5 degrees relative to Earth's orbital plane.
It's actually 5.1.
And of course, the Earth itself is tilted 23.5 degrees. Because of that, the tidal bulges move north and south throughout the lunar cycle.
So my question.
Let's start there, shall we? SciManDan. Every 2 weeks, the moon hops over our equator line. It goes from north to south, from north to south. Not enough, I would think, to make the tides go north and south in some kind of oscillation manner with a bit of resonance to bring up the slack. Now, SciManDan, the moon, as seen from planet Earth, let's say we're doing a 23.5 degree thing, right? See that equator moving? The moon would be 30 Earth diameters away from this Earth, and in the sky, it would be flicking every 2 weeks like that. That's what happens, SciManDan. Now, it is logical to think that the tides, the big bulge that they keep brainwashing people with, would be where the moon is orbiting. But it is not the case, is it? On further inspection, it is said that even though the moon is here, what happens? It pulls that water, but it somehow doesn't make high tides there. Somehow, SciManDan, you probably have a logical answer for that. When they're on the moon and they're tip-tiddly-top, 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 tip-tiddly, you see how much they jump up and stuff? Because that's 1/6 of Earth's gravitational pull, isn't it? Now, for those guys to be picking up rocks and stuff, so free and easy, jumping up high, and then at the same time, that moon is displacing the water on planet Earth. I say planet, on Earth. But then, it's not displacing any of the red circled big lakes and seas. Imagine that, SciManDan. Can you picture this? Right there, see that blue arrow? That's the Bay of Fundy. That blue arrow is Ungava Bay in Quebec. It's the highest tides on the planet. Look, right next to those lakes, look. And do you know what? Those lakes don't even budge a millimetre. A millimetre, SciManDan. Now I know, this for me is common sense. I know where you're at. I know where you and your merry men are at with this common sense thing. So you don't see it. You know what the good thing is about instantly seeing patterns? You can also instantly see non-patterns. With the tide, there is no pattern to be found in any of the high tides, low tides, neap tides, spring tides, king tides, or any other tides on this planet. There is that thing where the moon, the sun, and Earth are in a line and they complement each other's gravity, and the tides are somewhat higher, and that is when the king tides come. But if you jump in a little bit deeper, you'll see that it says the moon, it doesn't matter where the moon is in relation to any high tides anywhere on Earth. It's irrelevant where the moon is. If the moon's in a certain position, it doesn't mean that there's going to be a high tide over there. If the moon is in a different position, it doesn't mean that there's going to be a low tide over there. There is no set pattern with the tides. Now, I just remember, luckily, I set this water up to talk about your oscillation and your resonance, okay? If it had been anybody else, SciManDan, that would have been tap water, but I put a drop of blue paint in to make it realistic. What we are now going to do, we're going to do some oscillation. So do we know what oscillation is? Oscillation is something that a pendulum does. That kind of a thing. Musical instruments, things that make you go, Not all of the water on Earth. It doesn't oscillate. There is no uniform pattern. Oscillation requires that something has a middle, like a pendulum, the center, and there is an equal weight free for everyone. And then there is a forced oscillation where a force is pushing something to oscillate. But when it comes to the tides, SciManDan, I'm afraid we're going to have to leave that one outside. Now, oscillation. Oscillation is when something moves back and forth. Right, look. Do you mind? Now I get into that rhythm and I push it at the same time. And it's complemented, isn't it? See, look. Right? Now that's oscillating, and this would now be resonance. So it's oscillating if it was doing that on its own, and then I come along at the very same time and I give it that Unfortunately, there is no oscillating going on because there is no pattern. You're trying to say that the tides and the moon, the pulling of the water, is oscillation. But it isn't. It isn't, because there is no set pattern. Things don't oscillate over 12 hours, or 6 hours, or 5 hours and 25 minutes. They just don't. To be oscillating, something needs to be doing something like this. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Not loads of water rushing over everywhere, and then you're trying to tell me that because the water that's moving into these bays is perfectly timed, this oscillation in the Bay of Fundy and the other bays, it's perfectly in sync with the current coming in, which would be the resonance. So you have the tide going in at the same time as everything is just smoothly blending into one. But here's the thing. Tides all over the planet, you have slap moments, SciManDan. Do you fish? You could be fishing and the tide will come in and it comes right up to the top. This is your resonance, okay? And it can be at the top with a slap tide for up to an hour. Other times, it will start dropping back down within 5 minutes. Now, resonance, no. So now what we have is oscillation with no set anything, because the moon has nothing to do with where the high tides are. Nothing at all. There's no pattern. I'm telling you, there's no pattern. And then we have resonance. Sometimes it comes in, sits at the top for 5 minutes. Other times it's 40 minutes, 50 minutes, 7 minutes. How on earth can you link those two things together? Oscillation and resonance when talking about the water movement on Earth. Here's the thing, Dan. This is what I say to you about you guys don't know how to think. Now what do you do with this? You think I'm talking rubbish. You cannot understand how we are so far away from stuff oscillating and resonance that we shouldn't even be talking about it when it comes to the water on Earth, because it's illogical. There is no oscillation and there is no resonance. There is no pattern in either of them. We are talking no pattern at all. It's give or take half an hour with everything, okay? Now, look, I'm going to pause you for a second. I'm going to go and get something, a book. I'll be right back. And here we are. I got this out the other day for something as well, the same. So, now, what you're trying to insinuate is people know everything that's going on the ocean floor. All of those crevices and holes and ridges and cliff faces, some of them, you've got trenches. You have got so much stuff going on under there. And I'm going to have to break this news to you again. But anybody who claims they understand how the water flows on the bottom due to friction and this, that and the other because of the moon's gravitational pull is full of shit. Alright? I can't really say it much clearer than that. It's claims of knowledge that cannot be known. Here it is again. People claiming that this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. Right? No. There is no evidence that the moon has any gravitational pull of anything on this planet. The simple fact that Newton's involved makes it even less likely, I'd say. That's just a objective opinion because of patterns. Very obvious patterns. Learn to spot them. When you can spot them, you can also know when they're not there. There is no structured pattern with any tide in any place at any given time in relation to where either the moon or the sun is at the time. And that is a fact, SciManDan, okay? So, listen. You can do what you always do and say, well, look, you know, the science is bollocks. This is where the not a good look thing really kicks in, okay? Now, and you drew first blood. I don't understand the tidal model. And then you went on to say coastlines, ocean basins, amplify, narrow bays, shallow shelves, resonance. No, there isn't. And any scientist who tells you there is a liar or a charlatan, because there is no set pattern. There's no uniformity going on anywhere. I must say, I did notice that I was talking a little bit slower and deliberate in that it's because when I'm talking to your guys, if I just want to make sure that they get every single word, okay? But I'll try and pick up the pace a little bit as from now, because even I went, oh my God, they're not that. But then again, you know, you should see the comments. So forget that. Forget your oscillation and resonance. The tides, the physics, there is no physics of tides. They're lying to you. Why are you accepting it? That's what I don't get. Why can't people think outside the box? These things are so illogical. See, now you're in a position again where what do? I've given you slam dunk reasons why oscillation and resonance are not factors in this equation. They're not. It's ridiculous. In pendulums, not. Look, I can't go there. Can't go there. The Gulf of Mexico is a narrow inlet. And then you go on to say, there may be an opening, but it's a very restricted connection compared to the Atlantic Ocean. SciManDan. Which one do you want to look at? Got globes and maps all over the shop. Let's come up here. There's the Gulf of Mexico, right? Right here. That's the Atlantic Ocean, right? Now, seriously, do you really want to do this, SciManDan? Do you really want to do this? You are telling me that it's a narrow inlet. Look, let's not do this one. Let's bring the globe down. A narrow inlet, right? That there's no room because it's shallow, and you think that it's logical. Look at that. In between Miami and the Straits of Florida. See that? There's a line that says Bahama Islands. See that line? Look, if we follow that line, oh God, look, it goes right into, it's freaking Africa, look. So it's going right across the Atlantic. Look, see that line? Straight through. Do you know what the gap is between Miami and the Straits of Florida? Let's have a look. We've got Miami there, we've got Tampa there. That would be about what, 80, 90? I'm guessing easily 50, 60 miles. There is more than enough room for water, and lots of it, to go through that freaking inlet, okay? Let's look at Bristol. How on earth is it that the moon is moving this way with this freaking tidal bulge coming this way, which is a load of rubbish, and Bristol somehow, even though there's no water there and the moon's going this way, it still manages to chuck water into that channel, and it's the third highest tide on this planet. Listen, we could do this all day. If you are going to refuse all of this evidence, it's not a very good look, is it? All right? There is no evidence whatsoever that the moon is shifting any of the water on Earth. This tidal pool here and there. None. No evidence whatsoever. Your biggest smoking gun are all of these other lakes and seas around Earth. Look! None of them, not even a millimeter. Is that really logical? Don't do that. Well, science, because I will get on a flight, right? SciManDan. There comes a time, right, when it's about the facts. It's about the facts. Now, I'm not wrong. If you're going to try and come back and say, no, oscillation is a thing, then that is not, what is that? cognitive dissonance supreme. Resonance. There's no pattern in between the two. There's none of this. Look, you know what that is? Oscillation. And this here is the resonance. I push it at that perfect time, and that's how. But with the tides, you have this. The moon has nothing to do with the tidal waters on Earth. I will say it over and over. Slam dunk. It is not happening. See, here's the thing. Now everybody's like, what? You can't move past that. You are so institutionalized that it's too big. It's like a hurdle that the horses just stop, and you're going to have to turn back and start the race again and try it later. That is what has happened. That is the reason I'm so patient. And I keep coming back over and over as the Mickey Mouse comments bounce off of me, because I know it is none of your fault. None of yours fault, none of your faults. You know what I mean? When does the time come when these facts start to mean something? That they actually mean something? Don't forget, a fact is information without emotion. Stupidity is an opinion that ignores a fact. Now, these are facts, Dan. Oscillation is not happening. There is no resonance going on. There is nothing that is just going vuh, 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 vuh. It's all over the shop, isn't it? It's like that. That's my reply back to you. Now, I will play this all day long, right? If I ever take a wrong turn, you'll be the first to know. A couple of times that I have over the years, you know, I'm the first one to realise, and I'm the first one to post my mistake, because I am totally open-minded. I'm not here to be right. I'm here to make sure liars and charlatans don't take over, which they nearly have already. Now, which side are you on? Okay? So, it's not a good look, Uncle Dan. All right? Come over to the bright side. Come over to the light, Luke. Come over to the light. Okay? All right. Peace, brah. We have to have a beer together. I listen. I have this image, right, in my head. I'll take that photo. You might come out here. I might go to the UK one day. We'll have a laugh about this. And I say to myself, I'm in a pub with SciManDan, there's people there, and then a pop quiz comes up. Everybody, I'll be going, don't pick SciManDan. Seriously. Just joking, mate, all right? Just joking. All right. Peace. Oscillation with the tides. Resonance. Dan, stop it. All right, later, peeps.